Natasha Caltrero, and I founded Investors Choice Property Management in 2017. And effective today, I will be online every Thursday at 6:30 answering all of your property management questions. So we do have a couple of questions today that we have that were submitted by a couple of our followers, so we'll definitely get to that. But first, let me say it is so good to be back and chatting with the community again. Since March, we obviously haven't been at our usual real estate investing networking events. You know, those were really great. Those were really great events where we could get together, see each other face to face, and connect, answer questions, solve problems, and really grow together. So since then, I've felt very lonely. Although I've seen you on Facebook, I've seen your pictures, and I've been liking your pictures and commenting. It's really good to put myself out there again and be able to converse with you guys again. So that being said, I also want to introduce myself for any of those people out there that may not know me. My name is Natasha Caltrero, and I started my real estate investing journey back in 2006. So it's been 14 years. And since then, my husband and I have grown our portfolio. We have investments in Oshawa, in Peterborough, in Clarington, and we have tried a lot of different things. We've done duplex conversions, which we're still doing, rent-to-owns. We've done creative financing techniques. We've done more duplex conversions, and in 2017 was when I started Investors Choice Property Management. So it's been 3 years since I started ICPM, and since then we've grown the company, my team and I, to about 80 units, and we manage 80 units for our clients. The majority of these are in Oshawa and the surrounding areas. A lot of duplexes, single-family homes, and small buildings. So I am very pleased to be here today and answer any questions that you guys may have. Before I get started, I do have a disclaimer. So I am not a paralegal, and because I'm not a legal professional, I can't give legal advice. So a lot of questions when it comes to property management will overlap between the property management expert and the legal expert. So all I will be doing today is I will be speaking from my experience and what has worked for us in the past and what I've seen happen in the past. And I can only share my experience. I can't give you legal advice. So it is up to you to do your due diligence and talk to a paralegal if you are dealing with a legal matter. Okay, and so we're going to jump right into the questions there. Okay, question number 1 is about smoking marijuana. Hi, Natasha. I own a duplex in Oshawa, and the main floor tenant has been constantly complaining about marijuana smoke coming from the basement unit. She has kids upstairs, and she's afraid for their health. I have asked the basement tenant to stop several times, but it doesn't sound like he is changing his ways. What can I do? Thanks, David. Okay, David. So marijuana smoke, since smoking marijuana became illegal in Canada, it is no different than cigarette smoke in the eyes of the LTB when it comes to these things. It is no longer illegal. And although it is, of course, disturbing, and it sounds like the main floor tenant is very upset about this behavior, and it is definitely interfering with the main floor tenant's right to live without being disturbed by the basement tenant. And so the first thing I would recommend to you is to take a look at your lease and check to see whether or not your lease states that this unit is in fact a non-smoking building. So if it is a non-smoking building, then there's a couple of things that you can do. Chances are this is something that the upper unit has also mentioned to you, saying that, you know, you told us this was a non-smoking building, and now there's a basement, there's there's a tenant in the basement smoking, so you need to take care of this because it's interfering with my reasonable enjoyment of this rental unit. So, so it sounds like you've talked to the basement tenant already, and you've informed them that it's not allowed and that they should not be smoking in the property. The next step that I would recommend would be to put it in writing if you don't have it yet. So you want to protect yourself, and this is really where I come in, and this is really the perspective that I have is how can we best protect ourselves if worse comes to worse, and we end up in court, and the main floor unit takes us to court because she's trying to claim that we haven't done our job by providing her with a safe and healthy place to live. Now, after you put that in writing and you make sure that you send those notices, if not email, then definitely snail mail, definitely a hard copy letter that says, as per your lease, you're not required. We ask you to stop smoking inside your premises. It's disturbing the neighbors, et cetera, and deliver that right into his mailbox or deliver it through post. So if the complaints continue and this hasn't stopped the basement tenant from smoking, the next step is an N5. So again, because we're going into LTB, the legal region, you will need to talk to your paralegal about this, make sure that you get proper legal advice before you move forward with this. But there are a couple reasons we're serving the N5. So the N5 is for interference with the reasonable enjoyment of the other tenants of the building. And so what I'm suggesting is that this is served to the basement tenant. Now you can only serve this if the lease states that there's no smoking in the property, because otherwise the tenant didn't ever agree not to smoke in the property. Now, we've really got to monitor our expectations and really manage our expectations when it comes to this N5, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you are writing an N5 because you're doing your due diligence, because you're doing everything you can in your power to maintain a reasonable, healthy, and safe environment for your upper tenant. But in my experience, I've been to court, to the LTB hearings many, many times, and every single time I've been there, a smoking claim or an N5 from a landlord against a tenant for smoking in the property has been thrown out. And the only time it has held ground was when the landlord presented documentation from another tenant within the building who was complaining. That is either a doctor's note stating that they have asthma or some kind of breathing difficulty or a hospital stay. So this document is really what's going to make the N5 stick. Otherwise, the N5 is going to be thrown out. So if you don't have that, then it is a waste of time. I do recognize that. But the reason I say, consider doing it anyway is because that upper unit tenant, if things get very bad and the basement tenant doesn't stop smoking inside, that upper unit tenant can come back and try and take you to court to say that you haven't done your job as a landlord to try and create a safe environment, at which point you say, I served the N5, there was no record of any tenant in the property who had asthma or any health issue that was endangering the health of the tenants as a result of the smoking, and then it gets thrown out. So you've done your part as a landlord. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. If you do have any more questions or if you want any more clarity, please feel free to send us a message and we will definitely get back to you then. Okay, and I'm going to move on to the next question here. So this is a question from Shirley, and Shirley says, hi Natasha, it is time to do my annual smoke alarm checks, but my tenant won't let me in because she is afraid of getting COVID. Am I still liable if there is a fire? Okay, so Shirley, there's a lot of things that I don't know about your property. I don't know where it's located. I don't know what kind of property it is. But the generally short answer is yes, you are still liable if there is a fire. So as a landlord, it is your responsibility to maintain proper health and safety within the building. And I know, and you're trying to do the right thing. You were trying to go in and check those smoke alarms, and these tenants are not letting you in because they're afraid of getting COVID. So there's a couple of different angles you can take this one. If you can try reasoning with the tenant and explain why you want to go in, that's definitely your best bet. There's a couple of options. So first is perhaps they want to leave the property, and you or your representative would go in proper PPE and test those smoke alarms, change the batteries, do what you need to do, and fill up your report, and then you would just sanitize and clean all of the touch points on your way out that you have contaminated. Another option, an option that has been working for us, is having the tenants do the smoke alarm check. But what we do is we will have them video record testing those smoke alarms. So we had just one that came in this morning. It was a 3-floor townhome, and our tenant didn't want us to come in to check those smoke alarms. And so she sent us 3 short videos that she recorded on her smartphone of her setting off those smoke alarms and showing that they are working properly. The batteries are in place, and they are not beeping. And with that, we were able to check off our task of checking the smoke alarms in that property. Now, if the tenant, so this is really a great alternative, and we haven't had any issues with this so far. But if your tenant refuses this as well, the next step would be to serve an N5, and this is an N5 for interference with the landlord's obligations. So you, as a landlord, have an obligation to make sure that the property is in good condition and it's in a safe environment. If you haven't done your checks and there's a fire, you sure will be liable. So what you want to do is you want to do everything in your power to get this done. And if the tenant is not allowing you access into the property and you haven't been able to negotiate some other way of getting this critical task completed, then you would have to serve the N5. And the tenant will not be happy, but you have to cover yourself. You have to manage that property, and you have to take care of that property and take care of that tenant. Now, so when I say serve an N5, sorry, let me back up. There is a step before that. That is serving a notice of entry on the door of your tenant. So first you're going to post a notice of entry, give them between 24 and 48 hours notice, and then if you show up and they physically do not let you in, they lock the door, they say you have to stay out, we're refusing entry, that's when you serve the N5, because that's, and the reason for that is because they're not let you in the house to do your obligations. And then if there is a fire, God forbid, and someone's trying to figure out who to blame for this, you can say that you've done all of your due diligence and show your N5 and say, this is what I did. These are the series of events. I've done everything in my power to try and get this done, and that's all I can do. Okay, so that was our second question. And and so one more thing that I want to do, this isn't just going to be an AMA. I thought that it would be fun to share some funny stories or some tips. I mean, if you know a property manager, you know that they have the best stories. So I want to come up with a relevant story for you guys, and maybe I'll have a fun one for you next week. But today I have a really great tip. So my tip today is about trees on your property. Now, if you are doing all of your due diligence as a landlord, you are doing regular interior inspections and exterior inspections of your property. So during those inspections, don't forget to take a look at the trees and the shrubs around the property. Trees can grow very quickly, and if you don't visit the property often, they can become a problem and you may miss it. So during your inspections, it's important to take a look at the exterior as well, in the backyard and in the front, and the sides if it's applicable. Because trees can grow very quickly and damage your property in two ways, at least two ways. So the roots can break the foundation in your basement and cause it to leak. This is a very expensive repair. And this is something that is definitely, you want to catch this before it happens, because you don't want to bill for $10,000 to waterproof your house. And the other way is that branches can scrape off the siding and the shingles of your roof. So if you see the branches that are touching the house or touching your roof, that's a problem, because they may not look like they're doing much, but when it's windy and in the winter, they're going to be knocking those shingles off. So you definitely want to take care of those before they get overgrown and bad. One other thing that I've experienced at a couple of properties is overgrown trees that drop branches. Sometimes these are very large branches, and the worst thing that could happen is it could hit one of your tenants or your tenants' kids or pets. It could hit your tenants' cars, it could cause damage, but really you want to avoid this headache from the beginning and really nip it in the bud. That was a good one. And include this in your regular inspections and make sure that it's on your checklist. If you're not doing your inspections, make sure that your representative or whoever you're hiring to do your regular property inspections is watching out for this. So that is all I have for today. It's been fun. Thank you so much for listening. If you guys had your questions, you can send them through Facebook, or you can also send them to our email. That is info@icpmpros.com. And I will be here next Thursday at 6:30. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.